Hi, my name is Hilary Stupa and I'm a developer with qDABRA Software. In this video I'd like to talk about a particular qRules command, SaveToSharePoint, and how to use the command in a way that allows your qRules form to work correctly in the SharePoint sandbox. The SaveToSharePoint command, which is used to save files or images in your form to a SharePoint library, also returns the link to the newly created item to your form, which keeps your XML files small and gives your users an easy way to find the attached files. You can find additional documentation on this command at infopathdEV.com or on our YouTube channel. There's some information in the user guide, which I'm displaying here on the screen for you. The required parameters are URL and XPath, the URL being the location where you'd like to save your file, and the XPath being the XPath to your file node. However, the command requires that your form be full trust if you intend to use it in the browser. You'd also end up having to have your form be full trust if your form was published to one SharePoint server and you were saving your files to another SharePoint server. Because of this, we've got an additional optional parameter, dsnameWS, and this is a data connection to the SharePoint copy web service, which allows us to use an internal InfoPath data connection to save our file, at which point we no longer have to worry about our form being full trust. So what I'd like to talk about today is just using this additional optional parameter that will allow your form to work properly in the sandbox. So here's my form. I've already got a command set up on a couple different buttons. It does a basic save to SharePoint, has the URL I want to save to, has the XPath to the file. Right now I've got this form set to full trust, which you have to have for preview as well with this command if you're just using the required parameters. I'm going to go ahead and preview this, and I'll attach a few files here. So here's my Save to SharePoint button. It's just got my basic command, uses the URL and the XPath parameter. And after my file was saved, you can see I've been returned a link to the form. And I also can save multiple attachments. Again, all this information is available to you. We've got another video on this command that you can watch that'll talk a little bit more about some of these things. You can see here's the link to my new file. And if I navigate to my document library, specified in the URL, and refresh it, you can see my new files are here complete with unique names based on the date and time. So that's the command with the default values with the form running in full trust. We're going to go ahead and set our form's trust to domain. Say OK. And we're going to add a data connection to the copy web service of SharePoint. It's a receive connection. It's a SOAP web service. The first bit of the URI is to your particular SharePoint instance. The last piece is _VTI_bin/copy ASMX, and we clicked Next. InfoPath goes ahead and connects to that. We can see the different options we have. The option we're going to select is the Copy into Items method. We'll select Next. And you can just leave all of these things blank. Don't think a thing about them. Just click Next and move on. Next, and we're going to deselect this checkbox. We don't want to retrieve data when the form is open. We just need this data connection for qRules to use. I'm going to go ahead and leave the default name here. And we finish and close. So now I'm going to change my command, and I'm going to change one of them to use this and the other one to not use this. So here's the command on my first button, and I'll just go to the very end of the text I have typed in here. I'm not passing in any form values, so I don't need a concat statement. The parameter is dsnameWS equals, and copy into items was the name of my web service. And I'll say OK. The other thing I'm going to do here, since I have now changed my form to domain trust, we're going to assume that this command is going to fail, right? Because it does not have the parameter to indicate the data connection. And I'll go ahead and put my qRules error node here on my form so that I can see it fail, right? And now I'm going to preview again. I've attached my files. I anticipate my first command will work. I anticipate my second command will fail due to trust issues. So let's try our first command. Because we're using a data connection now, we get the security notice. That is expected. We'll say yes. And our file has been saved and our link has been returned. If we go and refresh our Internet Explorer browser page, we should see 4 files here now. And we do. There's our latest file. Back to preview, let's try the command that we anticipate will fail due to security settings. And as you can see, we do get an error. We scroll through the error to see the entire message, and you can see the details are security exception. Please check security requirements for this command. Next, I'm going to sandbox this form so we can try it in the browser. Before we publish up for use in IPFS, we want to make sure that any control on the form that is running qRules commands is set to always post back. So I'm going to set always on these buttons. We'll say OK, and then I'll go ahead and publish it up as a browser form to SharePoint, publish to SharePoint. And you can see it's already marked to enable filled out using a browser. We're publishing it to a form library. And I'll just create a new one. Our form is successfully published, and we can go ahead and open it in the browser. We'll just use that link, keep our life simple. I've attached a file to my form. I'll go ahead and click my Save to SharePoint button. And as you can see, our form has been saved. You can see the new URL down below. So that's it. It's pretty straightforward and simple. Starting in qRules version 4.0, we also have an option that will allow you to change the URL for that web service data connection that you've created. There is a limitation when we use copy into items from the copy web service of SharePoint, and that is that the URL that the data connection points to has to be the same site that we are saving our file to. But again, starting in version 4.0, you also have a DS URL parameter, so you could switch that as well, giving you a greater opportunity to be kind of dynamic about where you're putting your files and where that data connection points to. So that's it. Thanks for joining me. I hope you learned something. Be sure to check out all of our other instructional videos. Go to the forum if you need additional assistance with anything. We're here to help. Have fun and enjoy qRules.